Welcome to Truth Telling with Elizabeth DiAlto, the podcast dedicated to focusing on the truth that's always evolving within us and around us, where we explore the potentiality of truth as a highly esteemed value, especially in the context of everything that falls under the topics of healing, growth, leadership, and creativity. If you're new to me, full expression is my jam. I'm the creator of a practice called Wild Soul Movement. My flagship year-long online women's circle is called Power. I run virtual new moon circles every month, weekend workshops all over the planet throughout the year, and I work with clients one-on-one. I also started doing stand-up comedy for fun in 2018. So this is a place where you can come with your multiple talents and passions to be encouraged, nourished, and cultivated. There's a lot of noise and ignorance in our current culture, and this show also aims to cut through that by exploring the truths of a diverse range of incredible voices. From authors, artists, creatives, and educators to activists, speakers, and those in various scientific and esoteric fields, our guests hail from cultures and countries all over the world. The main intention here is to contribute to creating a kinder, gentler, more curious, collaborative, reverent world where people respect each other's backgrounds, experiences, and truths, and they trust in themselves and in life and recognize that we need each other. We post a new interview every Monday, and if you want to keep up with the show notes and quotes from our guests, you can follow me on Instagram at Elizabeth DiAlto. A few disclaimers. No episode of the show is meant for everyone, and every episode is meant for whoever needs it on the right day at the right time. Not all guest views will reflect my own, and that's intentional. We don't learn, grow, heal, or improve by staying in our comfortable bubbles with all of our people who look, think, or live exactly how we do. If you love what you hear and find it useful and inspiring, the best way to show your appreciation is to share the episode, subscribe to the show, and leave us a rating or review wherever you listen in from. Thank you so much for being here, and here we go. This is episode number 311 of Truth Telling with Elizabeth DiAlto, and today's guest is Megan Dalla-Camina. Megan is here talking about womanhood, rebirthing, softening of edges, receptivity, unfolding, unraveling, and coming into truth. So many of our favorite topics here on the show. She dropped some terms I really loved: appreciative inquiry and positive core, and she talked about navigating a deficit-based world by finding openings and focusing on our strengths, which I really appreciate. We discuss the difference between things that make sense and things that want to come through, how scary it can be soft, especially if you over-identify with being strong. She also answered a question that I really wanted to ask, which is why leaning in isn't always great advice. And she shared a couple of distinctions I really loved between things that are simple and boring, what is settling, and what is actually creating drama. So if you're someone who finds yourself with a good bit of drama in your life from time to time, we unpack why that might be happening and what might be going on for you, what resistance is, and things like this. So enjoy this episode, share it up, let us know what parts were your favorite. Find us on Instagram. The show notes for this episode can be found at untameyourself.com/311. That's untameyourself.com/311. And now for today's show. I am so excited to have you here. And listeners know that I love these interviews when it's with people who I actually know, and I got really lucky. When I was in Australia, Megan was someone who I had only been connected with on the internet, but then we got to hang out in Bondi Beach in the most adorable little bookshop of all time, which, by the way, if you ever find yourself in Bondi Beach, it's called Gertrude and Alice, and you just have to go. If you love books, you're just surrounded shelves and shelves and walls of books. It's so cozy and so great. So welcome. That was my big way of being like, I'm so happy you're here.
It was amazing to be in there. So cozy, and yeah, we could have sat there for days.
It's for days. So
for days.
How are you feeling in your body today?
That's such a good question. It's early. Well, it's not early, but it's 8 a.m. and I didn't go for my walk this morning. But I'm feeling pretty grounded. Just put my oils on, got my oils going. Yeah, I'm feeling pretty good. How are you? How are you feeling?
I'm great. Thank you for asking. So it's 3 p.m. here on Thursday. You're in the
Mhm.
future. It's 8 a.m. on
We are in the
Friday.
future.
I met a friend for coffee this morning, met another friend at a little co-working space that I go to in West Hollywood. So I've had like a whole day. This is my wind down. I've been looking forward to it all day.
Beautiful. I'm so happy to be here.
Yes.
So happy.
The real question, I love doing the embodiment check-in just to remind our listeners also to check in as we do that.
Yes.
But what's a truth that's having a big impact on your life right now?
It's interesting because I'm at a rebirth in my life at the moment. So I just this week rebirthed my new website into the world, which on its own is a thing, but I've completely rebirthed my brand and the embodiment of my work. So, and I'm about to launch my next book. So it's been this, what would you call it? This unfolding, unraveling process of coming into truth.
Yeah.
And like, that's no small thing, right? It's no small thing to go through a transition and a transformation and to get to the point where you just can say, yeah, this is my truth. Like, this is really my truth. Yeah, and just to feel that in your body and to feel that you are finally ready to put that forth. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's my big truth right now.
Makes
the truth
sense
of
to
my
me.
womanhood for where I'm at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So under the old title of the podcast, the opening question I used to ask people, because it was a lot more focused on the experience of womanhood, but then I wanted to broaden it a bit more, was what do you love about being a woman? So since your book is really about womanhood in a lot of ways, I'm going to ask you the old question too. What are you loving about being a woman right now?
Look, the short answer is everything. But there's a longer answer. My whole journey, I think, for the last decade has been about trying to understand what womanhood means to me. And I think it's like I'm in my 40s. I think it's part of, I think we come to it at different times. But for me, my 40s has really been around that. And I think the softening, the opening, the receptivity that we can have when we really start to own and understand, that balance between our feminine and our masculine, and just owning our truth, owning the truth of who we are, becoming more sovereign to ourselves. That for me right now is really juicy. It's a really juicy part of my womanhood, and unpacking that for myself and unpacking that with my clients and just like my girlfriends. Yeah. I'm loving the softness of being a woman. And if you'd known me 10 years ago, like that would be like a major revelation, because I lived so in my masculine, for such a big part of my life. So yeah, all of those things.
I can super relate to that. And, whenever we have conversations on the show where we use gendered terms, I always put out like the asterisks that we're speaking in energetics, right?
Yes,
these are
exactly right.
Many months ago, I interviewed a guy named Ken Page, and he gave me some alternate terms for this, but I still come back to masculine and feminine, because to me, they do resonate as meaning certain things energetically.
Yes.
And it relates to any person, so I'm like a broken record when this topic comes up, and I remind people.
And I'm the same.
No matter who you are, how you gender identify, we all have these energies within us.
Yes.
And if you dig using the terms masculine and feminine, cool. And if you don't, you could still listen to this conversation and just swap it out in your own head. Use the terms that work for you. Like, we're not here to exclude anyone. But, language is just a shared thing, and we need to arrive at terms where we know what we mean and we know what we're referring to. And I really appreciate that you said what it means to you, because honestly, that is actually one of the core things about Wild Soul Movement has always been. Like exploring, for many years I said reclaiming and redefining womanhood for the 21st century. And that's on an individual and a collective level, right?
Yes, I completely agree. And just coming back to the feminine and masculine, I so appreciate what you said, because in all of the leadership work that I teach and I talk about feminine and masculine, I always say it is non-gendered. I'm not talking about men and women. I'm not talking about male, female.
Yeah.
This is all genders, all people, no matter how you identify. Because we're talking about energies and traits. So I really appreciate you clarifying that, because I think it's really important, and we can get hung up on that if we don't have that common understanding. So I think that's really important.
And I also love what you said about like you've come to this exploration and embodiment in your 40s, because this is another fascinating thing I find in my work. The age range of women who've come into my work, especially my programs in the last several years, is 19 to 72.
Wow.
So when you
I
come
love
in,
that.
it's not like a demographic, it's not a whatever, it's when you bump into the time in your life when you're going, what is this aspect of me that is waking up, wanting to be explored, wanting to be embraced, expressed, something. And again, it's so unique for all of us. And we all, though, have come up in this culture that tries to tell us the acceptable handful of things that it looks like.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, like, I'm seeing a whole group of women in their early 30s who are really, like, I just look at them and I go, like, how are you like that? How are you so embodied? How are you so in touch and empowered in your 30s? Because when I was in my early 30s, I had a new baby. I was newly separated, getting divorced. I was in this big corporate job. I was a mess. And I see these, so we come to it in all different times of our lives. Some women get to it, in their 60s and 70s. So it is what it is for us.
Yeah. And there's no and there's no better time for anyone, like I think, if I'm looking at women I'm in my mid 30s. So if someone's in their 20s and they're coming into this, I'm not going, oh, they're better than I was. Like, it doesn't matter. I'm here now. Matter. You're here now. So wherever you are, that is, again, so we can wipe out gender. We could wipe out age.
Yeah.
And we could just go wherever you are, literally in your personhood, whatever the hell time it is for you. Yeah. Apply whatever resonates for you and make it valid for you if it feels that way. So this is another interesting thing. I love language. So you say rebirthing. And I know some people, and you're a mother, and some people who have actually physically birthed human beings are like, don't say that, it's not the same. I love the metaphor, though. I really do. Yeah. And it's so what is that experience like? Like, why is that the term that you used as a person who has birthed a human?
Is that offensive? Like, is that... When you say that, is that...
I've heard some people say they find it offensive or like it's co-opted, but that's one that I put a question mark around, because that's been a metaphor. It's such a metaphor in so many wisdom traditions and ancient and stuff like this. So, the death and rebirth cycle. So I think...
And in the creative process.
Well. So for me, I can look at it objectively and go, I can see how it can be used in these different contexts. And I always, say, I haven't birthed a human, so I don't have that perspective to add to it. So, and again, I'm not here to make things right or wrong. I'm just curious for why do you choose that word and why does it resonate for you?
So thank you for that perspective, because I would hate that to be offensive to anybody. Look, I think I do have a 18-year-old boy, big 6'2" man-child. And that process of, becoming pregnant and bringing new energy, a soul into the world, like that is, yes. And then going through the physicality of the birthing process, it is the biggest transformation, perhaps, arguably, that you could go through, or certainly for me. And I feel like the journey that I've been on, this exploration into womanhood for me and into, coming out of the corporate world, which I was in for so long, and being an entrepreneur. And I always talk about the softening of my edges that happened when I was in the corporate world for so long. And the I don't know, it's like the dumbing down of my senses, the taming of the rebel, like all of those things I left in, and there were many wonderful parts, right? So I had a fantastic career, and we can talk about that if that's of interest. But so this process of coming out of corporate and into an entrepreneurial journey and reclaiming all of those parts of myself that I lost, or that I dampened down, my creativity, my spirituality, so many parts of myself, my femininity, and then going into the process of the last sort of 2 years of this book and this reimagining and coming home to who I really am, and to who I really want to be, and reimagining the woman that I want to be, not what I had just become unintentionally, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
That whole process to me felt like rebirth.
Yeah.
So, and in all of its stages.
Yeah.
So that's why that term, and that term only actually came to me this week. I was writing something for a post, and I'd written it, and then I just went, rebirth, like that's what it's felt like now that I'm coming out the other end of it.
Because there is a very real gestation period.
Oh, yes. Yes, there is. There is. And I think that gestation period, like you can apply that to so many things, right? You can apply that to the creative process.
Yep.
Yeah, when you're going through bringing something through you into the world, you can apply that to your, I say womanhood, but for whatever, for whatever anybody relates to in that sense. There's so many things, but it is gestation. Like if you really want to be in the process and go through the process, I think that's exactly what it is.
Yeah. So I also like that you use the word reimagining, right? Because something I don't love about the way a lot of people are approaching things in our culture and in our industry right now is be filed under the term cancel culture. I see a lot of people just want to like toss away entire people, ideas, thoughts, like baby in the bathwater, out the friggin' window. And to me, reimagining implies let's keep what's good.
Yes.
Even if it's just like the bare bones. But like before we go tossing stuff out, let's mine for what is good. and for what is a seed of a thing that we could take and reintegrate, reimagine, put somewhere else, place more effort and energy on.
Yeah.
Like the whole thing might be problematic, but there might be elements that we could still work with.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And I completely agree. So it's so core to the work that I do is it's strengths-based, it's appreciative inquiry-based models of change. It's looking for what is the positive core, even if it's, as you say, a tiny little spark. What is that positive core, and how do we amplify that out to create more positive ways of change, as opposed to where's all the negative stuff? How do we wipe it out? Excuse me, sorry. How do we wipe it out, get rid of it, let it go, forget it, and just focus on what needs to be fixed? So, yeah.
I've never heard this term positive core before, and I love it because something we talk about a lot on the show is the concept of intent versus impact, right? And so many people justify harmful impact by saying, but my intentions were good.
Yes.
But when you saying what's at the positive core, it's bringing a focus to intent, but truly acknowledging impact.
Yeah, I'd never thought about it like that. Yeah, I love that.
This is cool.
I love that.
How do you help people see the positive core of a thing?
I think it depends on what you're looking at. So if I'm working with a client, it could be starting to find that entryway of looking at strengths. So how do we get to a strengths-based approach as opposed to a weakness-based approach? Because we live in a deficit-based world. We have negative gearing and wiring in our brains that makes us, it's our survival mechanism, makes us seek out what is wrong, where's the fear, where's the danger, where do we run away from it? And we're so geared like that, and our nervous systems are geared like that. So I'm always looking for where's the opening. So if it's with an individual and a client, it could be, okay, let's start talking about your strengths. Let's go and do the VIA character strength survey, which is a free online tool people can go and do. And let's start having strengths-based conversations about, who are you when you are doing what you like doing and what you're good at? What does that look like? What does that feel like? How do we do more of that versus just trying to stop doing, the stuff you don't want to do? If it's in a business, like with an entrepreneur or even a corporate, it's, we're trying to change culture, or we're trying to change a business, or we're trying to get into growth strategy. What is working? Like, what's working really well? That's the positive core. And then we're looking at amplification. How do we take that and expand and see what can come from that, what can grow from that? Because that's where the light is, right? That's where we're going to find the best of anything, the best of ourselves, the best of the work, the best of the business, the best of the people, the best of the culture. Yeah,
I love that so much, because a phrase that I say all the time is helping people get to know like who they are and how they're built. Right? Because when you can identify your strengths and also your weaknesses, it helps you to go, I should be doing more of this thing, and I have no business doing this other thing. You know what I mean? I need some help, or I need some support, or I just need to be able to accept that I'm not going to get a good result on this thing. In the simplest way. And it's funny because I just got back from another trip the other day, and so it takes me days to unpack.
It takes me weeks. It takes me weeks.
I was being generous with myself when I said days. I have a high tolerance for clutter. It doesn't actually bother me, but there's a threshold. Like, there is a point where it's like it crosses the line, and I'm like, damn, I got to do something about this. And like some people would judge that, or some people would apply these like adages that aren't necessarily true for everyone, and it's like, the external world reflects the internal world. And I'm like, it doesn't in this case. I just don't feel like putting my shit away. And so it's like, that's just not going to be something I'm good at, So I'm not going to beat myself up about it. I'm going to be like, yep, that suitcase. I fully am prepared that the suitcase is going to sit there for a week or two. I'll likely address it when I need to do my laundry, is the truth.
Yeah. Sometimes I unpack my case when I have to pack my case.
Yeah.
So it can literally, it can sit there. And like, I'm the same, clutter. If you saw my office right now, you would die. I have this beautiful one piece of clear space that I cleared last night, by the way. Everything else is paper and oils and teacups, and I don't care. Like, I just don't care. But I think this comes to self-acceptance and to knowing ourselves. Knowing ourselves. And I love that, what you say, how are you built? Because part of this whole journey of rebirthing is that acceptance of, like, I am who I am. And I'm really good at this, and I suck at this. And like, I'm just not going to fight it anymore. Like, I'm okay with that. Yeah.
I'm not going to pretend. I'm not going to try to compensate. I'm just like, and listen, maybe you're the person who like needs everything in perfect order. Great. Like,
power to you.
Neither thing or anything in between is better than any other.
Exactly. Just is what it is.
That's a freedom too, I think, not being latched on to one way being right.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I mean, wouldn't we live in a better world if that was the case?
Right. If people really
For all of us. Yeah.
So the name of your book is literally 3 of my favorite words.
Oh, really?
Yes. Simple, soulful, sacred. This happens to me sometimes when someone says something and I'm like, damn, I wish I thought of that. I don't begrudge you your brilliance though. Why those 3 words? How'd you pick those? Why? How'd you get there?
It's really, it's really interesting. This book was 2 other books before it was this book.
I get it.
Yeah, and you would understand that as a creative and as a writer. And I kept fighting and fighting and fighting against this book because I'd come out of writing Lead Like a Woman, which is, a leadership book for women, self-leadership. And there were other books that made more sense. And I think a lot of authors might relate to this. This book would make sense. This book would make sense. So I started writing another book, and then that book sort of turned into another book. But I just couldn't break through. Like I wasn't feeling it energetically.
Yeah.
And then I was sitting in Byron about, like a year and a half ago, and I'm looking at my table of contents. I'm playing with the different things, and I just stopped. And I had my, my art journal and my lead pencil. And I was like, how do I want this book to feel? Like, what is the experience I want to have writing this book? And what is the experience that I want my beautiful readers to have when they're reading this book? And I wrote down 3 words, and those 3 words were simple, soulful, sacred. And I didn't think it was the title. I didn't think anything of it at the time other than this is my guide now.
Yeah.
This is the guide for the book I want to write. And then I completely rewrote the table of contents because that's where I always start. I wrote the introduction, and then then I felt it. Then I was like embodied in the energy of this is the work that wants to come through, and now I'm ready.
I forget.
And yeah.
I think you told me this. Do you have a publisher, or are you self-publishing?
I do have a publisher. Yeah, Hay House.
And how did they respond to that?
To the change?
Mm-hmm.
Really well. Really well. I think Rosie from my publisher had been on this journey with me around what is the book, because they published my first book, Getting Real About Having It All. I self-published my second book through my company, Lead Like a Woman, which is a women's leadership development company, and then came back to Hay House for the third book. So they'd kind of been on a journey with me on like what was this. So when I then said, okay, I've landed, I'm here and this is what it is, they were just like, yeah, perfect.
Cool. I'm sure. I love like the background, like the processes of stuff too. I wonder sometimes, like the listeners, like I don't know if they care about that, but I geek out on it so much. I know some people do care. So, okay. I know that this happens, and you already shared like the rebirthing, the creative process. There's always like that rite of passage. Like I call it like the law of you teach what you need to and learn. You teach what you need to learn is enacted when you really do commit to like a new body of work or a new book or a new program or a course or a speaking, like a message. What were some of the ways it worked you while you were writing it?
Oh my God, it unraveled me. Like it literally unraveled me writing this book. Oh, in ways I'm still only finding and realizing.
And obviously, no need to share anything that's like vulnerable, tender, raw, or whatever.
No. Thank you for saying that, but no. It's totally fine. The writing of this book, and it's a big book. Like it's like this is the final.
Wow.
It was 160,000 words.
How many pages is that?
No, we cut it in half.
Wow.
We cut it in half, so now it's 84,000 words. So it was a big. It was 2 books, right? It was 2 books, and I knew when I was writing it that it was too big, but I had to get it out.
Yeah.
So it's so hard to I don't know if it's hard to explain. It was like the universe was saying to me, or whoever, I talk about the universe, but was saying to me, you're ready to step into your womanhood, like you're ready to redefine this. Okay, let's go.
Let's go.
And that phrase of you have to get comfortable being uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
I just had to yield.
Yeah.
You know, like I just had to yield and surrender to the process of letting this come through and know that. And I had such funny conversations with one of my girlfriends back all the way through the writing process, because it's like, well, if you want to write a book called Simple, Soulful, Sacred, which is really about reimagining womanhood, then you have to go through this and live it. You can't just write about it.
Yeah.
And it really is about embodying. So that's what the process was. And as a result of that, reimagined my entire brand and business, you know, which is my website went up this week, and I've had so many people say, oh my God, like it's so different.
Stunning.
Like, yeah.
I follow you primarily on Instagram, and I saw like some of the pictures that were coming through, and even the image that either you or your team sent us for the podcast. I was like, this is a person who is connected to all the parts, but the fierce, you know, it was interesting. It felt soft and fierce at the same time. And I was like, yes. Because if I can feel both, you're friggin' embodying the spectrum, you know, not just one or the other. Yeah.
Thank you so much. That means so much to me, because I think that this is part of the conversation, right? This is part of the conversation around how do we step into our, whatever you want to call it, personal power. I talk about feminine power, but again, it's not gendered, but that part of ourselves that taps into that softness that we've been told for so long as women has no place here. You know, that all of those soft traits have no place. Your vulnerability, your empathy, your intuition, don't cry in this room, you know, all of those parts, be quiet, let the boy go first, all of the things, certainly how I was raised. To know that we can step into that powerful place in ourselves, that we can be soft, we can be vulnerable, and all of the other things that you might bring along with that, but we can still have that fierceness and that raw, wild, rebellious power, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, like I think that's a really huge part of this journey, and that claiming of our sovereignty through that process.
You know,
that makes sense.
It makes a lot of sense to me. What it's reminding me of is actually a couple weeks ago, I go salsa dancing a lot, and I have a good friend who I've known for like 5 years now. He's one of my favorite people to dance with, and we always joke because he follows me on social media. He knows what I do, and he's like, he's always like, I get you submissive on the dance floor, and I'm like, yeah, like this is literally why I come here. I come here to be soft. I come here not to be in charge. It's one of my favorite parts about dancing. Like I don't have to lead. So for two things, so I can relax and follow, but also so I can practice following. Right? Because it's not where I spend the majority of my time or energy for my whole life. It's not like a dominant thing. Following is not a thing that is very like prominent or dominant in my life. So, but there are times when he takes it a little too far. He like teases me, and I'm like, he's enjoying this like too much.
Too much.
So last time I saw him, usually we're in this like banter, like the whole time we're dancing. And last time I was like, I'm just going to keep my mouth shut and smile, which is something I never, ever do. I smile a lot. I don't keep my mouth shut, like, you know? And I didn't say anything. He said, whatever he saying, and I didn't. This was such a like play and like metaphor for life for me, where it's like this energy that isn't really, I'm like, I don't know that this is as playful as it's being offered.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm just going to keep my mouth shut, and I'm just going to smile. And I'm not even going to engage with this. And it was so funny. Literally the last several weeks, how he's engaged with me since then has been entirely different. And so I was like, there actually is fierceness in softness or surrender. Because that took a lot of surrender for me to not say anything while this person was saying all these things that I had hella internal responses to. But I was like, I'm just not going to give it. I'm just going to surrender. I'm going to let this go.
Yeah. And how did that feel?
It felt so good because when the dance was over, all my energy was intact because I hadn't expended anything I wasn't planning on expending.
Yes. I love that. I love that. And I mean, that could take us into a whole conversation around energy, right? Like, how do we want to use our energy? What do we want to take? What do we want to, because everything that comes at us, like that's such a beautiful example of everything that comes at us energetically, we don't have to take. We don't have to claim that. We don't have to wear it. Yeah. And that, like, that's a life-changing realization when you can step into that place. And there is a fierceness in that, but there's also a softness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in your work and in your experience, whether it's your own or like all the clients and different like businesses and people that you work with, what are some of the biggest fears around being soft?
I think for the women that I work with, it is that, especially women in business, whether that's in their own business or whether that's in a organizational context, that they won't be taken seriously, that they won't be seen or heard, that they won't be able to play. That because we have this societal, patriarchal norm, stereotype, expectation that if you want to succeed, it looks like this. If you want to be heard, you speak like this.
Yeah.
And like it's changing. It's absolutely changing, but it's so ingrained in us. Like it's so embodied in our memory. And that's women, it's, people from, minority groups. It's anyone who's different than the norm.
On the margins.
Which is the white man, right? And I love white men. There's nothing against the white man, right? But it is like that's how we have been socialized. So I think that deeply ingrained, and it's not just enough to say, oh, well, fake it till you make it, or, no disrespect, but just lean in. It's not enough to say that because it's so deeply ingrained and embodied in us that we have to do the work. We have to do the work to step out of that. And I think for men or for, however you identify, but I see this a lot with men in the majority, that they feel that if they soften, they're stepping outside of their norms, and they won't be, respected, seen, get ahead, etc. So it's for all of us. Like we would all have a story of that, I would imagine.
Yeah, that lean in thing is so interesting. And I know you're not taking any direct digs. I know that's a book and that's a leadership book and a thing. Yeah. But I know it really doesn't resonate for a lot of people who are saying, you know what, for some folks, you're inviting them to lean into something that is the source of their trauma and oppression.
Yes.
So let's lean out of that. Yes. Thank you. Let's exit stage left, not lean in.
Yeah. And that was very much my reaction when that came out, because I'm very deep inside of organizational change around diversity and inclusion and have been for, 10, 15 years now, across all aspects. Yeah. And that was exactly my response. Number one, and I'm not having a dig at all because I think there's so much respect for that work and for the conversation that it has brought to the surface of culture and the cultural narrative. So there's no disrespect. But, the fact that to actually get to lean in, there is so much more work that needs to happen if it's going to be from a place of change, alignment, integrity, authenticity, and if it's going to be sustainable. And also, yes, like this culture that we are wanting to lean into is so fundamentally broken. We don't want to lean into that. We want to change that. Yeah. So both aspects of that I struggled with. Yeah. But there were a lot of merits as well. So
yeah, totally.
To be balanced.
Talk about the simple part, will ya? I love this. I mean, the world, I think with the expansion and continuing like advances in technology, things actually continue to get more and more complex, even in just the one aspect of like there's so much media and information coming at us all the time. Yeah. And a lot of people don't have the tools or the awareness to discern what they take in. And they actually don't realize that they have more choice than they think they do. So first of all, what is your context when you say simple?
Yeah. So this is about simplifying our lives.
Mm-hmm.
It's about getting intentional
Mm-hmm.
with our lives. It's about waking up. I mean, there's a whole chapter in the book on consciousness, because it's exactly what you say. Like, how do we take back our power, take back control, be discerning? I mean, just with our devices, like it's such a simple thing. We say, oh, well, technology is ruining our lives. No, it's not. We're ruining our lives with how we're wiring our brains.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, to be constantly going after that dopamine hit from, oh my God, who's liked me and who's sent me a message and what's my latest notification. That is the treadmill that we're on. But we can take back that control. We can take back that power, but we have to wake up first. Like, we have to wake up first. And I say we because I'm on this journey. I have exactly the same wiring that everybody else does who's addicted, especially if you have an addictive personality, which I do. So Simple is all about getting clear on what we want, looking at how we can, how do we strip it back?
Yeah.
I write, one of the chapters that I love is I wrote about thinking about how my Scottish grandparents used to live. And I was really reflecting on that when I was writing this book. They came out on the boat when my dad was 15 from Glasgow, and they had a really simple life up until my grandparents passed away. From the time that they woke up every day to how they made their meals and, picked the fruit off the tree in the backyard, and just everything was simple and structured and basic. And I used to, when I was growing up, used to think that was so boring. Like, where's the excitement? Where's the drama? Where's the, all of that? And now I just look at that and I crave that. I long for that simplicity. Yeah. So that's really what that first couple of chapters, the simple part, is about. How do we do all of those things in whatever context that's meaningful for us?
What I dig about this is I think when you are able to experience simplicity as really enjoyable, you have been able to unplug from any addiction or attachment to chaos and trauma and drama.
Yes.
Like you said, because I know personally I grew up in a chaotic environment, certainly not as chaotic as some people's, but so that was my comfort zone because it's just familiar.
Yes.
It's what you know.
Yes.
And if something is familiar, it could not be healthy or it could not be good, but if it's familiar, you're going to be like, oh, this is my norm. Yeah. This is what I know. So if this is not occurring, something must be wrong. And then you become like the person who finds a way to like stir the pot or create the drama or the chaos or whatever. But so I get it. I get that now craving simplicity once you've unplugged from that. Do you talk about that at all in the book, actually intentionally unplugging from drama, or is that was that just like a side note here?
I do. So I've got a whole thing in there. Well, it's not a whole thing because there's small chapters, but on where are you creating drama in your life? Because I didn't grow up in a chaotic environment, but I must have brought it in with me, but I was always creating drama. And I don't know if it's because I was on the stage from when I was 3 and I was an actress and my whole childhood as a dancer and an actress. So I don't know if I just lived inside these fictional dramas in my head and I played them out in my life, but it was drama everywhere. And all the way through until probably my late 30s. I wasn't even awake to it. I wasn't conscious that I was creating the drama in my life, and it was everywhere. So yeah, it's a thing. It's totally a thing.
At the time of recording this, I did a stand-up set in New York City like 4 nights ago. And one of the things that I was saying is on dating apps and dating profiles, you can learn so much about people. And one of the things is the men specifically who write, like, take up all of their characters to talk about how they're not into drama, right? And they're so over it. I want to be like, the common denominator is you, bro. If you need to be that adamant about how not into drama you are, that it's like all you can talk about in your dating profile, it's you. It's freaking you.
Yeah, for sure.
And there's no shame in that. Like, we don't say that to shame people. Like, I've been there. I've been the one who, like, creates the friggin' drama.
Yeah. And I did it. And you don't realize how much stress and anxiety and what we do to our nervous systems and our relationships when we live in that place.
Yeah.
So, this is all part of the simple, right? How do we, because this is the journey I've been on, how do you break it down?
Yeah.
What do you need? Like, how little do you need? How little money? How little, how can you strip things out of your morning routine?
Yeah.
How can you take less things when you leave the house? Yeah.
So, some people might hear this and think that you're asking them to settle. What's the difference between simplifying and settling?
Yes. Look, it can be a real paradox for people, right? Because I don't think it's about settling at all. I think it's about clearing the space for what you really want.
Yeah.
So, I have big, bold dreams. I have so much I want to do and so much I want to create. Not so much what I want to have. It's not about physicality. It's about putting forth, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So the less part creates more because it creates more space, it creates more energy, it creates more positive emotion, creates less stress. Yeah. And so therefore you have the space to be able to do whatever you want, but just not be caught up on in the cycle and on the treadmill. Yeah. So it's not about, no, I'm not for settling. Not the complete opposite.
Totally. Yeah. And then how do you distinguish between soulful and sacred? Like, they feel very like one feeds the other to me.
And they do. They do. And you could, depending on how you define them, interchange them. To me, the way that I write, soulful is about coming from that place of our soul. And I write about, what even is that? Like, there's so many different definitions. And, sorry, something just happened. But soulful is about getting in touch with that place inside of yourself. It's about awakening and expanding your consciousness so that you can live a soulful life. And I was exploring it as I was writing it. So hopefully people will get to go on that journey for themselves as well. Yeah. And then sacred, for me, again, different for everybody, but the way that I approach it and write about it in the book is it's about understanding what is sacred to you. And I write about defining what is sacred, what does sacred mean, what is sacred in your life, who are your sacred relationships, what is what is sacred, because I don't think we think about that consciously. I don't think we're asking ourselves, is this part of my life sacred? Is this relationship sacred? Is this time sacred? And I also write about womanhood and sovereignty in that part of the book, because just looping all the way back and from what you started, redefining and reclaiming womanhood is about claiming ourselves as sacred. And for all beings, the way I write about it here, it's, defining ourselves as sacred so that we can be who we want to be and cherish that.
I love this. I recently had to have a really tough, really uncomfortable conversation with a person in my life who it's not a negotiable person. This is not a person I can cut out of my life, but it's a person that's very hard for me to get along with. And essentially they asked me point blank, how important that relationship was to me. And I had to be really honest and say, in the scheme of the priorities of my life, it's not up there. It's not. This is something that I manage, if not tolerate, because I won't cut it out for the reasons that I won't cut it out. And so the sacredness, and that is one of the things that I shared. What are the qualities of the people in my life where the relationships are sacred? And one of the big things was safety. And I'm like, and there's not safety here for me. So this can't be held in the sacredness or in the priority or in the same esteem as these other things, because I can't fully be myself here. And I feel like what you were just saying, when we honor ourselves as sacred, our tolerance for other people not honoring us as sacred, or even not honoring themselves as sacred and somehow taking that out on us, the tolerance just automatically plummets.
Yeah, it does. And like you can extrapolate that across every aspect of our lives.
Totally.
Every aspect of our humanity. When we can have that sacred reverence for ourselves, then we start to have it for other people. And we start to have it for the planet, and we start to have it for communities that look different to us. And it goes on and on and on and on. And like, this is where we have to be now, right? Like, we have to be and come to this place because we're in strife.
Yeah.
On every level. And it starts with us.
Totally. Is there anything I didn't ask you as we start to wrap up here that you're like, man, I really wish we got to talk about this?
I don't think so. We kind of went everywhere. No, I don't think so.
Cool.
I think you nailed it, like all over the place.
People say that a lot because that's just how my brain works. You know, it like want to pulls the things all apart and then see how it all works together. So great. So the name of the book is Simple, Soulful, Sacred. Is your website your name now, or is there a specific website for the book?
So the website is my name, Megan Dalla-Camina, and the book is on the website.
Okay, great.
So, but it's also on, all those places that books are.
Yep.
So,
and then where's the best place for people to get to know you? Is it Instagram? Is it somewhere else on social media?
So I hang out on Instagram. So that's my home, just Megan Dalla-Camina, or my website, because it's literally just gone up, and it's.
And you're like, the website is so beautiful. Please go there.
It's so beautiful. Well, I think beauty is really important, because I think beauty is an opening to grace, and like, don't we just need some grace in all of our lives right now, and some comfort? And I put comfort. The subtitle of the book is A Woman's Guide to Clarity, Comfort, and Coming Home to Herself. And that comfort piece kind of snuck up on me, because I was one night when I was writing, I just wanted to go to my bookshelf and get a book that was going to comfort me.
Yes.
Because I just was feeling all the reasons why we might need comfort. And I wanted it to be that for whoever picks it up and reads it, to be able to do the exploration, but to have it be a comforting process, a safe process, not a sort of in your face. So I just think comfort is really, and that's safety. Like, you are safe to go on this journey, wherever you come from, whoever you are safe here. So, and I'm going to hold that space for you and comfort you whilst you unravel. And in the context of
a book, I love that, because that's a self-guided exploration.
Yes.
Right? In groups, it's hard to guarantee anyone's safety, because
absolutely,
you never know who's going to be in the space that might make it unsafe for any given person for any given reason. And I love the context in which you're using comfort here, because there is so much messaging in self-help and personal development that's like, get out of your comfort zone. But for some people, to allow themselves to be comforted is quite uncomfortable. Yes.
And I think they're different things.
Yep.
Because I write in the book about playing to your edges and, all of those things that take you out of your comfort zone, so that you can be who you're meant to be. But comfort the way that, so I'm talking about both. And again, it's a paradox, right?
Yep.
But to grow, we need to be uncomfortable, but we also need to have that safe space to be comforted in that process.
Yeah.
And I think we miss that so much in the rah-rah. We miss that ability to soften into that.
Yeah.
Whilst we're pushing our edges.
And this also returns us to, if we are addicted to chaos or drama or intensity. Intensity goes in there too.
Yes. Yeah.
Some people just think that that's the way, that actually the work isn't working if it doesn't feel intense.
Yes.
But not the case.
It doesn't have to be. And I was like that. I was an adrenaline junkie for 15 years. Workaholic, 16, 18-hour days, on a plane, constantly, drama, chaos, adrenaline. And I thought that that was just the way we had to be to succeed.
Yeah.
But it's so not true, right? It's so not true.
And you used the word sustainability earlier, which I had an internal celebration about. That's not a sustainable cocktail for anyone.
No, it's not.
It's really not.
Yeah.
So, Megan, thank you so much. Everyone listening, share this. I always encourage people, you know, if you're in a leadership role, if you have entrepreneurial friends, or even if just something came up during this conversation that you're like, man, that's so fascinating, you know, use these episodes like book clubs, you know, sit down with your friends, have a listen, have a conversation. I always encourage people to use these as a way to like connect and get to know each other with the people in their lives who they do want to be more intimate and they want to get closer with, because there's some really juicy stuff here. So again, thank you so much, everyone listening. As always, thank you for being with us, and we'll see you later.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I think like when we're talking about community in the collective, still the conversation is still, a lot of it is around like having people that we can share our emotions with, that we can talk, like have real talk with, or just that we can like be with physically and not be isolated in our homes behind our computers by ourselves. So